you. Thanks for tapping into another episode of Untapped Keg. I'm your host, RJ Zimmerman, and I'm honored to be joined by a licensed clinical social worker with a special emphasis on young adults, an author who told the story of his early days and has seen how different generations have grown up. Can talk about those differences. Tom LaGrave, how are you doing today, Tom?
I'm doing just fine, and thank you for that introduction.
Thank you for being here. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I could tell. And yeah, I'm really excited to get into it. So, with that being said, for those who this is their first time meeting you, could you give us a little bit of background into who you are?
Yeah, the bottom line is I'm a recovering addict alcoholic. My story saw 32 years of sobriety, and then I relapsed. And and for the last 5 years, I have found my way back into sobriety, doing it the way that it was always meant to be done. And in sharing with you, I just want to be honest and open, and let you know that I've got a lot of experience. But 5 years ago, I relapsed in a way that showed me that I have an issue with drinking and drugs. And regardless of what I look like, what I sound like, the fact of the matter is, my name's Tom, and I'm in recovery.
Mm. And the thing that I want people to understand that they may not is the power in just allowing yourself to be human. And right. And that's really what it boils down to when you talk about recovery. You talk about all these other things, but like when you allow yourself to be human and now you can go through life in a way where you don't have to be perfect and you can just be, it's okay to make mistakes, right? It's okay to struggle. It's okay to have challenges.
Well,
You just want to
we
do it without alcohol, without drugs, without
yeah, we had
all of
we
that.
had this conversation. We shared. It was the humility.
Yes.
You know, human is human. We're all human, but to understand how humility plays a role in my life, in my recovery, was huge. Because 32 years later, I'm licensed clinical, board certified diplomat in social work, and I started out with a military career as a former Navy SEAL. I was discharged for drug use and ended up finding my way into sobriety by working with youth, not so much for me to help them, but for them to help me understand. And when that happened, I came to understand what it is to be honest and open and be absolutely fearless. And that was what the young folks taught me. And in return, I looked at and found out I had a gift working with them, that it just came natural to me. So I ended up going back to school and getting all the credentials, because I got those credentials for a reason. I wanted to be able to have an answer no matter what a young person came to me with, whatever they had. I didn't want to say, well, I don't know what to do with that, is why I pursued the education. And what happens with that is you everybody comes to you, everybody looks to you, you begin to see yourself as something special. And the fact of the matter is, on day one till the day I die, I'm no, I'm not special. I'm unique in that I'm a human being that is not going to use drugs or alcohol. But the fact of the matter is, the humility allowed me to find my way after a relapse back here, because this is where I belong.
Mm, For those audio listeners, you didn't see me do the fist pump when Tom spoke about, I'm not special, I'm unique, and just how that's something with humility, right? Where you recognize that, yeah, I'm not special and I am unique, like, but I am unique, and I am unique, like that amount of I'm the sum of all of these experiences. Nobody has had those same experiences the way that I have. and that's unique. And then my journey to get to this point has also been unique. And also there's things that I have that I can relate to other people because of my own unique journey. And theirs is also unique. And so like all of that combined is something that is a recipe for just being able to enjoy life in a way where you can be more present. You can not have that anxiety that comes with trying to be perfect, which is what happens when you think you're special. And that's a heavy weight to have to carry.
Yeah, and it's been a journey that I have no regrets. You know, you look back in your past, if I hadn't made every mistake that I made, I'm not sitting here in the fashion that I am, saying to you that I have a skill set that is able to help a great many people, but the very first person that I take care of every day that I wake up, the first person in the morning that I'm looking for is myself. And they say it's a selfish program. Well, you got to understand what they mean by that being a selfish program. If I put myself first, if I check myself, if I'm all right, then I can go about my day. But if I'm not all right, then it's my responsibility to surround myself with the kinds of people that will look at me and go, what's going on, if I won't be honest with them. So for me, I'm looking at me first. I'm being selfish. And then once I know that my day is grounded in being unique, not special, I can go about my day to see what is going to be put in front of me, which at the end of the day is not always a good ending to the day. But if I were to compare it with my best drunk day, it's still 10 times better to have a sober, difficult time because I know that I can find the answers within me. I'm not driven to find an excuse in the form of a drink or a drug. And so that is really the key piece for me at this time.
I like to tell people that when you decide to stop drinking, when you decide to make those changes in your life that you have been wanting to change, right? That it's been holding you back, whether it's drugs, alcohol, gambling, porn, anything, honestly, work, anything that is a detriment to your life. Like that's the most selfless, selfish decision that you can make.
Yeah.
And that is like you just hit the nail on the head on what it is. Like you take care of yourself as a parent. If I don't take care of me, what's going to happen to my kids when that comes back to bite me? What has happened when I haven't taken care of me? I'm laid up sick, and now I got a 6-year-old who's trying to microwave a hot dog because I don't have it in me to get up to make him food. And it's like, is that what I want as a parent? No, I want to take care of it. Am I going to be sick? Yes, I can allow myself to be sick so that I can have the energy to get up and make my kids food. Like
Yeah.
that is the encapsulation that actually happened where I had to talk him through how to microwave a hot dog because I did not have the energy or wherewithal to be able to get up to cook him a hot dog. And it was like, okay, I need to go to the doctor. I need to make sure I'm taking medicine. I need to make sure I'm doing all these things that we as adults think we should. But I was like, I'll tough through it. I'm a man. I'll do it. I'll be okay. And then it comes back to bite me right in the ass.
Yeah.
And it's like, let's do it different. That humility that comes from that moment and allowing it.
Yeah. Deep breath.
Allowing it. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What has it been in working with the youth that has been so inspirational for you?
You know, I have now worked for the last, what is it, almost 40 years of one form or another working with youth without credentials, with credentials. And I've watched an evolution, a change of how kids are raised from when my parents raised me to the first group when I was an overnight counselor at an adolescent recovery facility. I did that for 4 years. And then I was a unit director at a Boys and Girls Club. And so during that phase, I was in my 30s and I was new to sobriety. And I was looking to be there for young people, but I was in the learning mode. They were teaching me, because the fact of the matter is, just because you walk into a Boys and Girls Club and you're the unit director, them kids don't got to listen to you. I mean, they come and go as they please. And I wanted to be able to have that relationship. And having worked previous to that in an adolescent recovery facility, in that setting, those young people had to talk to me because I was the counselor. And they weren't going to leave that program until they addressed whatever issues. So the evolution of the first 4 years to the second 4 years of trying to understand how to get young people to respond to me was what I came to find out was, if you say you're going to do something, do it. Because if you don't, those youngsters will not, they'll avoid you because you're not legitimate, you're not honorable, you're not honest. And with that said, it was probably 2 years into my stint as a unit director before it finally got to that place where they responded to me, and it came to be that I had proven my worth. Because and this is with youth still today, kids are not listening to what we're telling them. They're watching us to see what we do. And that was the biggest lesson I took from the second 4 years working at a Boys and Girls Club. That was really eye-opening, because they were watching me. Am I coming to work on time? Am I, saying that I'm going to coach this team and we're going to set it up, practice is going to be at this time, and then I show up? And being consistent in that 2 year period made the last 2 years awesome, because I wasn't their friend. Because you, as a parent, you can't be your kid's friend. That's the end game. When they're adults, you want your kids to be your friends. But while you're raising them, in the position I was in, I couldn't be a friend because I had to hold the line. I had to tell them no. I had to say, this is why you can't do that. And if in you giving in, you set yourself up for kids to walk all over you. And what I came to find out in that time frame too was that young folks want to be told what to do. They want that, but they want it done in a certain way. They want to know that you heard them, that they got to voice what they wanted to, that their voice mattered, and then you go and do what you need to do. That's the relationship that I got from that, my 30s. Going into my 40s, it was another story, but it didn't change in that I took those lessons of having to earn trust. Bottom line is, when I start an interaction as a clinician, I will say to the individual, I'm not looking for you to trust me. What I'm asking for is the opportunity to earn your trust. And that's the same thing with kids. And if anything has served me, that lesson was the huge lesson.
Sometimes my kids will respond to me when they're not allowed to do what they want to do. I don't like you, Daddy. Right. And my response in those moments, for myself and for them to know, is that's okay. You don't have to. That wasn't a part of the agreement. You didn't ask to be here. And so you don't have to like me. But you know what? I love you and I will always love you. And
Bingo.
That's the agreement.
Yes.
And that, like, when I say that, like, they're still frustrated, but they're like, oh, I love you too. Right. And I'm not looking for that. I love you too. I want them to know they don't have to, and that's okay. But I'm still going to love them, and I'm still going to do what I feel is right by them.
Yeah.
And that is like something that I've seen in other, kids with that consistency, with that, you say you're going to do something, so then you do it, and then all of a sudden they start to respect you. But also, like, this doesn't just go to like kids, but like young kids in the workforce. Like, if you're a leader over kids,
Yeah.
and kids, being 18 to 26, I'm even older, 32, 35.
Yeah.
Listen, you say you're going to do something, then do it. And if you can't, like, come open and honest. Hey, I can't right now because this came up. Right. And so, but being honest about it, now all of a sudden there's something different that's there. And it opens it up to be able to have that trust.
Yeah.
It absolutely needs to be there. And how have you seen, is this something that is across those generations that you've witnessed growing up, that is like that through line?
Well, you said the piece that was the key element to it is, people know that I do therapy with young folks. So they're always coming up to me saying, I'm a terrible parent. I'm a horrible parent. And you know what? I have only one answer for that. And that is I ask the question, do your kids know that you love them? Do they know that they are loved by you? And every parent's going to say, yeah, but, and I say, yeah, nothing. When a child knows that she or he is loved, you pretty much drop them on their head and you'll still be able to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter whether it's my generation, your generation, my grandparents' generation, that's still the same. If you're loved, as a clinical therapist, I always am looking to understand how that works in an individual, because there have been, unfortunately, the first job I took with professional credentials, Child Protective Services, I was overwhelmed in not believing that there were actually young people raised in ways that I was seeing as an adult that was foreign to me, was shocking. And it was profound in allowing me to understand the love component, because we all want to be loved. We all want that. But if it wasn't put there in your youth, that's a tough one to figure out how to maneuver so that I can get you to see that you're still lovable. But I don't have the reference for you to know what it is to be lovable. And that's unfortunate with youth throughout our times, but especially for the last decade and a half. Our young people are being overwhelmed because of what I go back to and sharing, that they're not listening to what we're telling them. They're watching what we're doing. And we adults at this stage in our history are not putting up very good examples for our kids to learn from. And they don't understand, and they shut down. And when they shut down, they're not hearing the answers that they need, and they're getting wrapped up in their own thoughts, and it's going so that you're needing more and more mental health with the younger group than I have seen in past.
What do you think it is that they're seeing that is causing such challenges?
Anger. Anger is in our society in a huge way right now. Nobody wants to talk to each other. It inundates. You watch it on TV, you watch it on you're seeing it on the various platforms. You can't escape it. And the issue with anger is, understand from a clinical standpoint, if you're angry, the reason you're angry is you're afraid of something. So anger is not the issue. It's what's the fear that's driving the anger. And when you won't address it, and when you're making excuses and lies, and that becomes acceptable, the kids are going, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? And they're shutting down. And it's the reason I wrote that book. it's the reason I'm sitting here with you. I'm at the end of my journey. I am at that stage where I get to give back. I have had my life. It has been wonderful. I am in a position now to be able to say to young people, tell me what you got going. Let me figure it out from my perspective. Let me share it back with you, and then you tell me what we're going to do. And I am semi-retired. I can do it now. I work 2 days a week to make enough money because I was smart enough in the past, since I got sober, to figure out you got to put money away.
Mm-hmm.
And now the skill set that I have that is one of a kind in my ability to understand youth, I can now give it away for free. But I'm still going to say, no, I can't do that. Because in the interaction, I want to empower youth, but if you're going down the wrong road, I'm not going with you. So that's the evolution of 20s, 30s, 40s, and now I'm in my 60s, and it's this book right here. Are we being videoed?
Yep.
Okay, so it's Special Welfare, Social Warfare, Adolescence to Adulthood. It's a guidebook. I tell the story of when I went from adolescence to adulthood, and then looking at those that came a generation after me, 2 generations, 3 generations, and was able to see and tell a story of how it's changed, how young people today are missing out on what I call a rite of passage. And that is to be taken from adolescence to adulthood with elders guiding you in your presence, walking with you, rather than saying to you, there's the door, good luck, boot in your pants, and I hope it works for you. Because that's what I see is all we have today. And that's not gonna work. And that's why I'm sitting here with you.
There's a moment, I still remember it, as a parent, where what you said about they're watching you, right? And they're watching what you do, not necessarily doing what you say. And I saw my youngest standing there in a doorway, and he was standing exactly how I do. And I was like,
Yeah.
where did he
Yeah.
just pick that up? And he's just standing there. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay. I need to model what I am sharing with them. And so that means there's certain things that I need to start stepping up and setting that standard for, right? And it's, how it looks like forgiving myself, like being angry, like, oh, I can't believe that. And then just laughing and being like, what a dork. And they'll say, what's going on? I'm like, oh, I forgot to do something. And that was silly, wasn't it? Wasn't it silly that I forgot to do that? There's nothing wrong with it. It's just now I got to go do it. And that for me is something that I remember from my childhood, that like, there you said anger and how much anger is there. Like there was a lot of anger in my childhood. And like I was the kid always getting kicked off the playground. And I was the kid who had the temper tantrum, to the point where like in high school, it was, oh, let's wind RJ up and watch him go. This is going to be hilarious when he blows up. And I did every single time. And I didn't understand it for years. And you saying that was just like, wow, okay, get it. I get it. And there's so much in there of that modeling, and yeah, you can tell them, but if you tell them and you do the opposite, guess what they're going to do?
Because there was a generation that did that. My father, do as I say, not as I do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Dad, that was, yeah, that generation's no longer here. They're on their way out. They were the silent generation and the greatest generation. And I can understand them. I do. I understand why they said what they said and did what they did.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? Each generation, we got the choice to follow in their suit or change. That's the beauty, to go back to our sobriety, that I can break the chain of how everybody in my family, going back however many generations, did the same thing over and over again. And it's insanity to think you're going to get something different.
It really is. And you were mentioning something that I think would be really um, beneficial to bring up and talk about a little bit. Let's say you have somebody early to mid 20s who did not grow up thinking that they were lovable. How do you start to the process of breaking that and showing someone that actually you are lovable?
Yeah, there's I shared with you in the book. The book was written because I have a nonprofit. It's called Honor Bound Academy. And the reason it's in the book was I was unable to get funding. So I didn't want to not have it. So I
Mm-hmm.
wrote about it in a book and gave all the documentation, all the research that went into it. And the key piece to that is when you're dealing with a generation that might have those feelings, it in a rite of passage, there's three different domains. There is where you depart. It's where you overcome the whatever the difficulties are, and then the return. And that is ancient in its preparation, in its presentation. So I can take a young person and do that rite of passage years after when it should have been done. But in that, you get to find out that you're the master, that you bring towards you good or negative based off of how you interact with the world. And if you want to have the world treat you lovingly, then you have to, if you don't know loving, you know caring. And I can go sideways on not okay, we can't, you didn't have the loving, but you've cared about something. And I found that there's a great many human beings that have greater love and caring for a pet than they do for people. And that's okay with me. If you have that pet that you just absolutely would die for, then we got it. See, I can use that you didn't have that in your youth, and then you apply it to a transitional where the the beginning you're like immature thoughts on what you're looking to do. What is this you're talking about? And then the search for, and you're finding what you're looking for, and it's not somebody shoving it down your throat or expecting you to do it my way. And you put to the individual, male or female, that rite of passage for the young person who's missing love but knows how to care. And as
Mm.
long as care is there, and it usually is, that's how I address young people with that kind of experience.
I love that. And I love how you went from, if loving, you don't have that context, like there's that caring. And so how you could bridge that. Um, I'm one of those people that went through thinking I wasn't lovable, and I didn't know it until my mid 30s. And when I realized that, I was looking in the mirror and it's just like, I really, really hated what I saw. And I realized that love, that was not going to happen. Like, it's just not, right? I don't want the hatred, but I can't get to love. It's just that there is no way. And so for me, like, it looked like just being okay with being me, like understanding that I'm just okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just okay. And that was my starting point. And then it got to and then it got to, friend and everything. And that was like the steps that I was able to take. And that caring is something like you taking that and using it, that pet,
Yeah.
possession, something that you felt was valuable, that you cared for. You can turn that to yourself, and that's something you can choose. It sounds pie in the sky. It sounds like there's no way that's possible, but I'm sitting here talking to you like you seriously can. This is something that I have done. I have completely like rewired things. Does that still come sometimes? But guess what? I know. No, I'm okay. I know how to get back to that level that I thrive at. And that's the difference of where I was to where I am now. And that's, being able to share that with people and just show it as a possibility um is something that I really want people to understand that they can start to do. And it's a process it's never too late. It's never too late.
There it is. Because remember, I relapsed after 32 years, and I relapsed for 3 weeks. And I had never been suicidal. Okay, well, I now can check that box. And what it did was it shocked me in that 5 years ago, I've been a clinical therapist for the last 20 some odd years. And I have dealt with suicide in that entire time. And I know I am compassionate and empathetic and intelligent and know what I need to get you to a safe place. But after it became my suicidal ideation, I look at it completely different. I look at it with humility, because for all those years that I thought I was making the difference in saving lives, I wasn't. And though I saved people because I wasn't afraid to address it, but in the last 5 years, I go about it now in a completely different way of how I make sure you're okay. And let me put this straight up and forward. I, as a clinical therapist that is extremely good at what I do, puts me in the category of being a master manipulator. Now, I am going to manipulate you to find whatever it is that's killing you, and I'm going to go after it. So I'm not going to make excuses or tell you I'm sorry for being a manipulator. But the fact of the matter is, in understanding how people are really dealing with this moment, I completely go in a different direction. Whether I know you or don't know you, I'm checking to make sure that you're okay. Look, you know what? Life isn't always great. It's not going to always be great. But I want to make sure that you're not going to do harm to yourself or someone else. And I can do that in ways that were foreign to me before I had my own issue with suicide. So again, humility and honesty is what makes the difference on what people will respond to me or not.
Mm. That honesty, man, it's, to me, one of the most powerful forces
Yep.
in life, and just being me, is just like being honest. Is this really working? Like, am I surviving? Yes. But is it really working? Am I really living the life that I can look at and be like, and be proud of? Like, what in here is it? Is it work? No, it's not. It's not necessarily the work. It's how I'm showing up. It's what I'm doing. And then that humility to say what that honesty is, like you're saying, like just how correlated that relationship is. And there's, that quote that I'm sure so many different people know, but it's, you can only heal as deeply as you're willing to be honest about yourself.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, like it's so true. You can't heal what you don't think, like, that you're denying is there. And that is something that, and you may not even know, like, that's the part about this that you got to take a look at and try and hear outside perspectives, maybe in a different way, because they're not delivering it in a way that's landing for you, right? But just like, you can't fix something that you don't know. And if your subconscious is covering things up, how do you get through to that? And that's where, you go to a therapist, you listen to friends when they're saying something, and you might not connect things one for one, but you can see something in there. There's a kernel of truth. There's something that is in there. And you mentioned earlier about anger and that fear that's underneath. What's that underlying fear? A lot of times that underlying fear is something that we are unwilling to be honest with ourselves about. So if you can find what that is and be honest about what it is that's making you angry, I can tell you with my ex-wife going through a divorce, I was so angry, so resentful, and that how could this happen? How could she do this to me? And all of a sudden I'm like, what is it that I'm really angry about? Like I just that moment where I'm just like asking, what am I really angry about?
There you go.
And I'm at a stoplight and all of a sudden tears come in my eyes and I'm like, fuck, I'm angry because she gave herself permission to move on and I haven't yet.
Wow.
And it was like,
Wow.
that's what I'm angry about. Okay. Because I don't like sitting in that anger anymore. I used to, right? But I don't anymore. It's not a place that I want to stay. It's a
Right.
place I have to go from time to time because I'm human, but it's a place that I don't want to stay. And so if I'm staying there, I try to figure out what it is underneath. And that's powerful, to be honest, to have that humbleness to say, it's that I'm not giving myself the permission that she has. That's really what it is. I'm angry at myself. I'm denying myself a need. I'm denying myself a want.
That's powerful. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
a lot of, I mean, it's what this podcast is born from
Yeah.
is sharing these stories so that people can take it and use it. And maybe it'll have something come into your mind that you didn't even know needed to, that you didn't even think about, that I can look at this from a different perspective. Oh, and that power can be there.
You know what else is there too is I learned this from my own sobriety first and then saw it in the therapeutic world. Secrets. You're only sick as your secrets.
Mm,
And if you're early to sobriety, you need to enjoy that you're here and there you got time. But if you're going to stay in these rooms, you're going to have to find what the secret is and you're going to have to share it with another human being or you're never going to escape yourself. And that's
what
from recovery.
what do
That's
you
the
think those secrets are rooted in? Like what's an
it can be
example?
anything. You know what? They're sexual, they're physical, they're emotional. There are, I was a government contractor for 7 years working with active duty personnel that were in Iraq and Afghanistan that were coming back with seeing the horrors of war. And you know what? This is male, female. It didn't matter. But the way that a human heals itself is it shuts it away and it shuts it down. And the problem with it is you have to tamp something on top of it. And we use drugs and alcohol to as the mortar that'll hold it down. And you're fighting a losing battle. And if at some point you're going to commit suicide, kill somebody, or wreak a havoc that you can't take back. And if you're in, if you're one of us and you're in these rooms and you're new to it, you enjoy that you're here. I'm glad that you're ready, or I'm glad that you're here. There will come a time, but if you're in the rooms and you're wondering what the hell, maybe it's time. And that's where the sponsor comes in, and that's where you got to dig deep and you got to get real. And you're only going to hurt yourself if you're not honest. And
Mm,
that's again for the tapping the keg conversation. This is not my clinical, this is my recovery.
yeah. And I wanted you to elaborate on that so people could understand like what it, there could be, because there's so many different layers to that. And like for me, it was, it ultimately came down to I never accepted myself, right? And I talked about like, not feeling like I'm lovable and that self-hatred. Well, that rooted in that self-acceptance. Well, that's what I was getting from alcohol until I talked about it and recognized that that's what I was getting. Like I can't heal that part of me unless I am aware of it. And I'm consciously aware of it. Not that something's there, but consciously aware of it. And then I can share it with other people, and they, that support is so powerful, especially people in the rooms that we're in, because there's no judgment. It's just straight support. And if you've never felt that and you don't think that's possible, you go into those rooms and you see it.
You know what though? There you're asking to clarify.
Yep.
From my experience as a clinician and my own personal experience as an addict alcoholic, the sexual component is, you got to do a sexual inventory. If it's not there, wow, you got lucky, because the one that I come to despise and truly have serious such issue with is rape. Mm-hmm. And to think that women are the only thing that gets raped, men get raped. So when you're talking about something that you are never going to share with another human, but you can't share that. And in the rooms, we say you're safe here, you're with your likes. You know what? I worked with the youth at the adolescent recovery facility that I watched. I am 29 years old, and I'm watching a 13, 14-year-old male talk about being raped by his uncle. And I am scared to death that I can't do that. And so I'm sitting there, a fake, working with these kids, and I can't do that sexual inventory. And I felt shame of the experience that I had, and shame that here's this 15-year-old kid that is crying his eyes out, sharing this horrible thing. And then I got to watch the next day and the next day and the week later and the month later, and I watched this life come alive. I saw this demon got excised out of a human, and it was thrown away in the right kind of way. And I went, whoa. And that's when I did the 4-step. I do the 12 steps. There's all different ways, but I did the 4-step 4 times. And it was on the 4th time that I got real, that I did that sexual inventory. So I'm here to share with you that no matter how dark the horror is, there's going to be a human being that crosses your path that you're going to sense is the one that you can share that with. And when it's time, do it. And know that you will experience a freedom that you will know in no other way. And in that particular way, for an addict to no longer use drugs, we've got a better life than everybody who drinks and can drink normally. They don't understand us. And to be perfectly honest, I don't understand them. But the fact of the matter is, we are the kind of humans that become real, honest, caring, legitimate, honorable men and women. That's one of the glories of what becomes your future when you choose to walk that path. So take it for what it's worth.
Take it and be willing to recognize those little things, right? I think that's being able to share these deep moments that you work through, and understanding like it's not always going to be difficult as the first time, second time, third time that you do, but being able to share that just takes this weight off you to the point where you could start to appreciate little things in life. That cup of coffee, right? That first one in the morning when it hits, that how green that tree is on a walk that you've walked by 50 times, but now you look and you're like, holy crap, that's a beautiful color green. Never noticed that before, right? And there's that humility that comes to noticing these small things, and you're not jaded anymore to say, oh, that's nothing. What is that? And you start to experience that uniqueness that is life and your life, and just allow that human experience to happen, that beauty. That's what's available. That's what people really can look forward to if they are willing to honestly, like, be that honesty with themselves, that humility to approach life with, that ability to, to want to reach out and ask for support, and know that there's nothing wrong with that. There's strength in that, not weakness. The opposite of what maybe we were taught.
Yeah. And we're all eligible for it. Yeah.
That, sometimes there's things that are unsaid that seem like they might be implied. But when you say them, just like you just did,
Yeah.
all eligible for it. Like, it's like, I kind of knew that, but at the same time, saying it, hearing it out loud, like, say the damn thing sometimes that's implied, because there's so much power in it that people might know it, but when you hear it, it makes it real. I appreciate you having this conversation with me, Tom. Please tell us the title of your book again and where people can find it.
Okay. It's Special Welfare, Social Warfare, Adolescence to Adulthood. It's a guidebook. Now, the book was written, and I brought it because I wanted to share that I was seeing something in the decades of working with young people, and that was their rite of passage. Now, there was an individual, his name was Joseph Campbell. He did myth, and he's passed on, but he's still a wonderful teacher. If you ever want to look into an amazing human being that, and you have trouble with religion in the, finding your power greater than, go check this guy out. He did myths that were just awesome, because he was able to go back before there was any religion. We had myths. And so the creation of that, because I was not able to get funding, I didn't want to lose out on that knowledge base. And then I wanted to share the story of how it happened with, how did I end up working with young people, getting, how is it that you know this stuff? And it came down to, I was 19 years old. I went in the military at a time and was given the opportunity to become a Navy SEAL. In boot camp, in the third week, you could take a screening test. And if you passed it, you got to go and see if you could become a Navy SEAL. So I ended up passing the screening test, and ended up in Coronado. And I was in BUDS, Basic Underwater Demolition SEAL Training, class 106. That we started August 27th, 1979, and I graduated in February 29th, 1980. And the reason that this is a story and needs to know is I did my first drink and drug at the age of 14. And by the age of 15, I was an alcoholic drug addict. I just didn't know it. I wasn't ready to at that time. So when I ended up in the military going through this very difficult training, people ask, well, how could you do that? And I'm like, because I had all the physical, mental acuities that are required to become a Navy SEAL. And the addiction, I brought that with me. And the reason that it's important is 9 years after I graduated to become a Navy SEAL, I was discharged for drug use. And it was horrible. It wasn't just a job for me. It was a way of life. It was, I couldn't separate me from that being. And I was discharged, not coming back. Goodbye. See you later. Ended up back at home. Parents said, you can stay if you go deal with your drug issue. 4 months after discharge, I ended up in a recovery facility called Project 90. 90 days later, I'm able to physically end my addiction, but I didn't know how to live life. So at that first year of sobriety, I'm reading, going to meetings, doing sponsorship, going to dances, doing everything that they say. But I'm like, I'm not going to make it. So I wasn't, as I shared, able to go into my past and be honest with myself. So I figured I'll start working with kids. And that's where that came about. 4 years adolescent recovery facility, 4 years at a Boys and Girls Club. So I had a talent and ability, got my bachelor's, master's, license, board certification, and saw that I could work with youth and help them no matter what the issues were. And I've done that for the past 30 years. And in watching that happen, the rite of passage that I had was one, way back in, I was like 7 or 8. It was called Why Indian Guides. The YMCA did Why Indian Guides. I was also a Boy Scout. Those are rites of passages for young men and Girl Scouts for young ladies. So if it doesn't matter what branch of the military you go in, whether you're male or female, that's another rite of passage. Well, as we're looking at it, as the years progress, those are not becoming as prominent as they once were. And we're not having, our youth are missing out on elder guidance, mentorship. You're not, I am showing you how to be a man. I'm not telling you how to be a man. And that was the missing component. So I created a nonprofit. I spent 10 years trying to get funded. It didn't work. I wrote a book. You can read it all in here. Now, I'm also spreading the word this way, sharing with you, speaking about my addiction, my background, where I've come from, and being as honest as I can in the hopes that there's a power that's greater than I. There's a world out there that I am participating in because I have found a power greater than myself that I believe in. And if you want to know about it, keep coming back to your meetings, read the book, and you know what? Someday we might cross paths and you can ask me about it. But until then, just know that love is the conditional piece that is intricate to the overall. And if it wasn't there, look at how a rite of passage is put together, because it's not about me. A rite of passage is looking to be something that you can serve. You serve your family, you serve your neighborhood, you serve your country, you serve your there's a service component. And in doing that, you can care. Now, if you've never been loved, but you can understand caring, you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Big circle. So that's my story. That's where it's coming from. And all that I know is, with all humility, you matter. You matter. In this day and age, we are facing a darkness as a society. And all that you need to know is there are enough good people that are here that will not be caught off guard. And all that you need to know is that we're here, you're here, we'll find each other, and we'll make it happen. Love is what's going to make it happen. And that is what I am sharing at this moment. Hopefully you got it.
I love it. I love it so much. That's something that people could take actionable right now, use. Doesn't matter how old you are. If you can do that, and that service aspect is so powerful. And you realize just how much you get back from giving that. Tom, if people want to keep up with you and follow you, what's the best way that they can do that?
I have the nonprofit. You can find me at www.thehonorboundacademy.org. Again, you know the www part. It's thehonorboundacademy.org. And that's my platform. And from there, all the other platforms are accessible. But in that, you can find my story. All my credentials are there, every job I've ever had. And I've done a bunch of blogs where I wrote stories, and there's a couple dozens that you can check on that website. And from there, I got an email address you can send, and I can't answer them all, but I do screen them to find out, because you always get that feeling, the one that jumps out at you, and I go that way to answer them. But again, thehonorboundacademy.org is where you can find me, and I will look forward to seeing you and meeting you.
I love that. Go, look up the honorboundacademy.org and, see how you might be able to help out. And Tom, this has been really great. I appreciate you being here. This has been wonderful.
Yep.
For those of you out there, this is Untapped Keg. Share this with somebody who would benefit from it. Leave a review, and let's try to be better tomorrow than we were today, because at least we don't make it, we tried. Have a great week, everybody. I love you.
Thank you.